we're hoping that very shortly we'll be making an announcement on how we achieve the digital connectivity, but also the pictures that I'm seeing now about trying to harness the power of the River Mersey is part of that, because they have to be a conjoined package really to get the benefits of that agglomeration. But just while I'm on, and I've never obviously met Terry before, it's fantastic to be able to speak to somebody who obviously we've got such a lot in common. He's a professor who has got a construction background and developed content for the NASA program, and I've got a construction background, and I used to build sewers and chimneys just over there, if people can see it in the virtual reality world. So I'm sure when we do meet in the real world, we'll have a lot more in common than that. But I think what has happened is Silicon Valley, and certainly Chattanooga, when I was talking about what happened there before, they've given us a blueprint of where we can take the future of the Liverpool City region. And we have to ask the important question first of all is, what is the city region for? And I think it's about exploiting and capitalising on the natural assets that we have, including human capital, the skills of the people here, the entrepreneurialism, the stuff that we take for granted but is in part of our DNA. And where I'm looking around, if we can do that, then hopefully the likes of Terry and others will be attracted to be coming over here to have a look at what we're developing, on the banks of the River Mersey.
Steve, I guess that's the trick, isn't it? Or that's one of the tricks that you've got to grapple with. How do we get more people putting their faith in the digital economy locally, and more importantly, perhaps their money as well? How do you facilitate that?
Well, we've proven that at least that digital connectivity is really important with the problems that we've had with the internet here. That's why I think if we are going to develop these new technologies, some things that we can't even predict because we don't know what's coming around the corner. We know that the stuff that's happening now, and we've heard from Terry, will accelerate, but there'll be new applications beyond even our wildest imagination now. And we need to provide the ecosystem around which the businesses, the entrepreneurs, the people who might be in with investors really will benefit. And it's not just about that digital connectivity. I think I said earlier, it has to be about the whole package. So it will be about the transport infrastructure, it'll be about the type of homes and where we build them, it will be about schools and education, it will be about apprenticeships, a whole host of different things are what we're told when we've asked for feedback from large organisations, global organisations. The whole package is something that they are really interested in, rather than just one aspect of perhaps trying to get those broadband speeds to be of something that would be attractive when it's compared to other areas in the UK. We have to compete globally, and that's why this platform and others are really exciting for us.
Vicky, how are we doing locally in terms of VR? How advanced are we in terms of VR and AR compared to other cities like, I don't know, Bristol, Birmingham, Leeds, wherever?
I mean, I think that we're doing really well. We do have a huge amount of talent here, and VR and AR are in its early days, but we've already got companies that have been running with their product for a really long time, some of which you've seen here today, such as Draw and Code and SwapBots. Obviously us, we've got FireSprite, we've had other people working on products for Sony, and I think it's just going to continue to grow as the market develops. We're going to see these products getting stronger and stronger. From a personal point of view, obviously, vTime is a leader in what we do. We're one of the biggest names in social. And from a tiny part of Liverpool, there's a funny thing that always happens when we go over to the States. When they say, oh, where are you from? Where have you developed this? And we say Liverpool, and they're like, oh, Livermore, which is a place near Silicon Valley, I believe. See, Terry gets it. And we're like, no, Liverpool. And we're already putting Liverpool on the map for VR and AR.
Terry, what can we learn from Silicon Valley? Because Silicon Valley had its roots there. The technologies had to start somewhere and built into the amazing place it is today. What do you think we can learn from that?
Well, I think it's a two-way street. I think both of Steve's comments and Vicky's comments about it becoming a global technology and global business and global learning. I actually met Lee Omar of Red Ninja in New Delhi, India, and we started talking about Liverpool and Palo Alto as if they were right next door to each other. So I would encourage, and it takes leadership from people like Steve to have this happen, because there are lots of governmental aspects to this, there's lots of academic aspects to it, and there's lots of business aspects to it. So that sort of triple helix of working together globally is what my students, whether they're in India or whether they're at Stanford, they're coming up in a world that's different, and it's going to be different because of what Vicky's doing and what Steve's doing and what Liverpool is doing. And I would encourage this. I think you have more than I think you have a very positive opportunity to build on that, because as someone who I've been in this area since before Silicon Valley was called Silicon Valley, and it happens in different. One area will move ahead. You mentioned Chattanooga. Chattanooga may be ahead of some of the towns and cities in Silicon Valley, if we're realistic about it. I remember when I was working with the city council of Palo Alto, early 90s, none of the city council members had a laptop, none of them had email, and everybody on the city council of Blacksburg, Virginia had that. So I think we have to stay in touch, and we have to, it's sort of, this technology can rise all the boats in the tide. And I just think Liverpool is just very exciting. And I think you've got every opportunity in the world to take a leadership position in this globally.
Steve, how do we make sure that it's not just an elite who have access to this technology? Because like every city in the world, we've got our own issues. How do we make sure it's an inclusive exercise?
Well, Terry will know the person I refer to, which is Mayor Andy Burke of Chattanooga, and what they decided to do was to connect homes, so directly connect to every single home and every business in the whole of Chattanooga. And their speeds are 200 times faster than the American average. And you can imagine the sort of the young entrepreneur, somebody who might be described as being a bit geeky in their own room, who all of a sudden has the opportunity to start developing things and connecting into things that wouldn't have been possible without that infrastructure. And so that's the big thing for us, to really dig into what we have as natural assets to provide that a similar sort of opportunity for interconnectivity, so that everybody can benefit from it, whether you're a young person, sitting in your bedroom, or whether you're an old person who just wants to use it because they have family that lives in Silicon Valley or wherever, and they can use digital technology to their advantage. But there's lots and lots of applications, and this is where I'll be fascinated in real time to meet with Terry and others to see what the limitations or the extent of the lack of limitations are for what we want to achieve in our city region.
I'm going to ask you a very unfair question. Where do you expect to be in terms of this vision in, say, 5 years' time?
If it's just a digital technology, then I would hope that might well even be achieved in totality. We have to then link that to what our other natural assets are, and this is one right below, well, my feet, whether people out there can see what we're seeing. But the River Mersey is our lifeblood. It was the source for Liverpool in the first industrial revolution, and I still think in the fourth industrial revolution this can be a source of greatness for us. We need to link these things together, and that's what makes us unique, because of the global companies who are looking to become carbon neutral, and having that digital connectivity and the clean, renewable, predictable energy that this thing gives us, I just think can set us apart in a global context.
Well, it's great to to finish on such a positive note. I do hope that you and Terry manage to meet each other fairly soon. Can you just give your show of appreciation, please, to Professor Terry Beaubois, Vicky Roberts from vTime, and Steve Rotheram, the Mayor of the City of Liverpool Region. Thank you.